It is 5:30 p.m. and I now call to order the Grand Island Public Schools Board of Education meeting. This is the May 14, 2026 meeting. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the Grand Island Independent, which is the district's designated method of giving notice of these meetings. We want those in attendance to know that copies of the Open Meetings Act are available at the entrance to the boardroom. If anyone in attendance is interested in addressing our board, you are welcome to do so. We simply request that you complete the appropriate form and turn it in to us so that you may be recognized during the request to address the board part of our meeting. If you have not already completed the form, please see the staff person outside the entrance to this room. Public comment is welcome. We do ask that no signs be brought into the boardroom. Mrs. Dibbert, would you please call the roll?
Mr. McFarland.
Present.
Mr. McFarland.
Present.
Mr. Hawley and Mr. Barsonis gave prior notice of their absence. Mr. Garcia Mendez. Mrs. Albers. Dr. Mann. Mrs. Douglas. Here. Mrs. Wilson. Here. Mrs. Goodman. Here.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight is consent agenda. The consent agenda is to be approved as follows. Items number 3.1 to 3.10. Does anyone have a potential conflict of interest on agenda item number 3.3? If so, please let us know. Ms. Albers?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second by Ms. Douglas. Discussion? You may proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Sorry, my fingers aren't working very well. Okay. Special recognition. Recognition of student winners in the Nebraska Educational Technology Association contest for their statewide achievements in technology and creativity. For speakers tonight, we have Miss Valerie Kamelka, Mrs. Deanna Hirschman, and Mrs. Chandra Kosmicki.
Hello, I'm thrilled to share that our district had a historic showing at the NETA Awards this year. NETA is Nebraska Education Technology Association, and they are the state's premier professional organization for digital learning, and they are affiliated with ISTE, which is the International Society of Technology Education, that standards we use in our classroom. Each year, NETA has a statewide contest to find the best student-produced work in Nebraska. It's very competitive through the entire state. And this year, our district took home all 3 divisions first place. So we were pretty excited. We had swept the competition for elementary school. They're in digital media, which is for graphic design and visual communication, coding for logic, problem solving, and computational thinking, and video production, which is for storytelling or technical editing. And winning these 3 categories just shows how much our students are using and doing well with technology. I'm at Dodge Elementary, and my first place winner was Brianni Ramirez Munguia. I messed up your last name. Come up on it, Brianni. And she's a first grader and drew a picture. Come stand right over here. Of a treehouse, after we read a treehouse story that won. And as I was getting ready for this presentation, I realized I have had Kara said I had to say this, the winner in digital media for 19 years. So that's really exciting to continue that here. Who's your winner?
I'm Deanna Hirschman, good evening. And I have also been lucky enough to attend NETA for I think 27 of my 30-some years of teaching, and also been able to have a lot of student winners. And this year's winner from Gates is a 4th grader, Dean Ho, and he won, come on up, Dean. He won first place for a coding musical project that he made using the code.org website that has lots of different coding choices, and kids can make projects using that. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to apologize for my voice. I don't have a voice. At Engelman, we had a group of students that came after school and wrote, directed, produced, edited their own after-school show, a variety show kind of thing, and they won the video production for that. So we're missing two. We're missing Lucy Schlegel and Rowan Lesiak, but Hayden Dimmitt, Rylan Lindsay, Annabelle Martin, Barrett McMullen, and Dane Topash. Come on up.
You'll stand right up here and we'll take a picture.
All right, you guys are all up there. Now, I have certificates that the board is going to present. So Hayden, congratulations to you. Dean, congratulations. Rowan, he's not here. All right. Island, congratulations. Annabelle. Congratulations. Barrett. Congratulations. Brittany. Congratulations. Lucy, was that one not there? Congratulations. Nice work, guys.
A couple steps back.
Perfect. All right, stand with your certificates out, please, and smile and hold it, because we're going to take a bunch of pictures, all right? Okay. All right, don't move. Anybody else that wants photos that haven't yet, grab your photos.
Take a picture.
Did everyone get their pictures? All right, congratulations.
Okay, next is item 4.2, recognition of the Westridge Middle School Quiz Bowl team for their second place finish in the ESU 10 Academic Quiz Bowl competition. Mrs. Stacy Vogel.
Hello. We were fortunate enough to do pretty well at Quiz Bowl again this year. My team first has to go against Bar and Walnut here in town and be the winner because the issue only allows us one team per school district. So we were listed as Grand Island rather than Westridge, and we're representative of our whole middle school sets of teams here in town. And we placed second out of 34 teams on the day. So it was a very long and extended competition, but they did very well, and I'm very pleased for them. So we have Asa Nielsen, Ava Myers, Lance Norlander, who was our captain, Lila Finnick, who couldn't be here this evening, Taylor Krebs, those are all 8th graders, and then Dax Lindsay, who's a 7th grader, and our 6th graders were Chase Bennett and Cush Butler. Will you all come up? And Caitlin Wilson is our team savior. She helps keep us going. When we have competitions in 2 rooms, she'll go to 1 room for me because she's our student manager, and so she is with us as well tonight because she helps keep me sane. So you have Dax on your left first. Oh, there you go. She's not absent this evening. And Caitlin, yes, perfect.
Congratulations to all of you.
smile. Hold it while there's
Okay, one more, sorry. I wanted to get out of the way for all the parents, so. Thank you, guys.
Angela, we don't have any requests to address the board, do we? Okay. Okay. Next item on the agenda is number 5, request to address the board. I do not believe we have any this evening, so we'll move on to our informational items. Item number 6.1, Grand Island Public Schools Foundation updates on Teacher of the Year, staff giving, and scholarship season. Mrs. Carrie Hooker-Leap.
Okay, so these aren't posters, these are props. Just a clarification. So, first off, my staff I brought with me, Mandy Sullivan, Candy Weimers, and Carrie Price, if you don't know them. And so I just want to give a summation. We had an amazing year. And as you can see, I couldn't bring 110 students with me, but we have pictures of 110 students that we provided scholarships to this year. 198 scholarships for a record-breaking $759,058 that was provided. So we're super excited. The class of 2026 truly set the bar high, and we're so proud. We are, if you didn't know, and I love to tout us, we are the leading scholarship provider in the state of Nebraska. So thank you, GIPS. So that's my props. We also, on Monday, we finished up our 23rd annual staff giving. Now, if you didn't know, we are the leaders in not just the state of Nebraska for foundations, we are the leaders in the nation for participation to the foundations. We had 90% of the staff give to our giving. That is amazing. On an average, most foundations receive about 70, 60%. So we're very grateful for our participation. That's every staff member is asked. That includes boards, and they can give small, they can give large, but it's just a vote of confidence for the foundation. We raised an incredible $110,316. 32 teams. Now, there's several teams throughout the district, and we break up our teams in schools. 32 of our teams gave 100%. It took 58 team leaders, 7 incredible co-chairs, and we also received a challenge gift. That challenge gift was from Dr. Tom Warner. He is 1981 alumni, and Lynn Warner, his wife. Innovation grants. You're saying, what's an innovation grant? It used to be a classroom grant. This year, we're going to move into something new and phenomenal. Innovation tank. So we're taking our classroom grants to a whole new level. We've always given classroom grants. Those classroom grants are for out-of-the-box thinking, curriculum building. One of the grants that we provided before myself was the robotics program. So we're taking it to a new level. From $2,500, you can actually ask for $5,000 this next year. The grants are open, by the way, so if anybody's listening and they'd love to write a grant for us, we'd love to see it. Staff recognition. We do Teacher of the Year. We just closed those nominations down. This year, we received almost 2,100 nominations. Those nominations could be anything from a crossing guard to our nutritional services, staff, administration. Why we close it down early, those 2,100, 600 staff members, we want to give them their nominations. Who doesn't need a kudos this time of year? They're very tired, they've done everything they possibly can, and they just need to get across the finish line. So they receive their nominations, and then at welcome back on August 6th. We'll discuss or provide them with the Teacher of the Year or Staff Member of the Year, and we'll honor them then. Professional development grants, we provide 3 professional development grants. Those will close down on Monday. That is for staff and administration that are actually going to extend their education. That's $1,500 a piece. Again, we want to hit all avenues, not just our students, but also giving back to our staff. And then our compassion grants. Our compassion grants are exactly what we love to do. It's filling the gaps, being sure that our students have everything they possibly need to be successful, to thrive, to dream big. So, in a nutshell, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all the support that you provide to the foundation. Thank you for helping us empower our students. Is there any questions? We love questions. Nothing? Well, again, thank you so much. Thank you, staff members. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Carrie. No, I didn't.
If you don't mind, just so we have it on the record that we're.
Okay. I apologize, I made an error under the announcements of recognition. We do have agenda item number 4.3, which we are skipping. It's the GIPS Senior Earned Spring Nebraska Seal of Biliteracy Award. That student was not able to make it tonight, so we are going to go ahead and do that recognition in August. So for the record, we did have an item number 4.3. Okay, back down to item number 6.2, FIT presentation, Ms. Christine Ostermeyer.
I'm coming up with Christine first, if that's okay. But you can connect while, do you have a dome, or does it need?
No,
Yeah, I think you can use this
right?
right there, and then put this.
I don't, see, new technology, too many things.
Oh, look at you go. See, it's working. Okay, all right. Command F1.
Command F1.
There you go. Okay, I'm gonna
Wow,
real
that
quick
is
just
fancy.
give a little spiel.
Absolutely.
Okay, good evening. I'm busting in here for just a second. So grateful for Christine coming tonight as the FIT coordinator. It's been a good 2 years having this position, being able to kind of expand and get out in the community and start working on some policy level things and thinking through that and so next steps there. But tonight I also wanted to have you recognize Brian Whitecalf, who's here also. Go ahead and stand up. Okay, Brian, who is our secondary community liaison that works directly with Christine, with our FIT families, received from the NSEA this year, the Educational Support Professional of the Year, a couple weeks ago in Lincoln. Was it in Lincoln? In Lincoln, which is really exciting because that's for across the whole state. He was honored as somebody who's doing outstanding work for kids and families, and so we just wanted to make sure that we were able to celebrate him tonight too. So anyway, so just wanted to share that because it's great work that they're doing for all the families that you're going to hear about and all the kids that you're going to hear about tonight. So
Congratulations.
Good evening. So as Dr. Stevens already alluded, I get to stand up here and present to you, but this is not really my work. This is the work of our community liaisons, our school-based social workers, our counselors, and many other support staff in our buildings, and how we identify and support students who just need just a little bit of extra to make sure that they're as successful as their peers. So I wanted to kind of just go through this presentation because I think it's important to make sure that everybody understands what FIT is, what we're doing, and our why. So kind of to get started, a little bit about kind of the numbers. So Nebraska as a whole, our numbers have stayed pretty steady over the last year. So this is comparable. So about 1 in 10 students experience unstable housing throughout their school career. The state's poverty level, or percentage of population below the state poverty level, has risen slightly. Last year, it was about 10%. Now we're at about 11. We still see about 1 in 4 homeless students are also enrolled in our English language services across the state. Unaccompanied youth make up about 11% of the students identified. About 67% of families are doubled up, so in shared housing of some sort. And about 12% of families are living in hotels or motels as a long-term housing solution. So Grand Island specifically. So this year alone, we have identified 360 students that qualify underneath the McKinney-Vento Homeless Students Act. And honestly, that number has already shifted today because I had a message about a family facing eviction, and so more than likely that will add to our student population. So this number changes regularly as our family situations change. This year, about 88% of families were doubled up, which is about similar to last year. 16 students resided in a shelter program, and we identified 80 students that do not live with a legal guardian. That 80 is probably our biggest shift. Last year, we identified closer to 45. I think some of that just has to do with we continue to grow our capacity to understand students' situations and be able to get these numbers to accurately reflect our student body. So at this point, our student population is spread across all of our schools. Last year, we had a few buildings that did not identify any students, and this year that was a slight shift, even if it's a small number. We've had a few buildings kind of shift down and another building shift up with the number of students that we identified. So kind of to reflect back, I've used the term homelessness, I've used McKinney-Vento Act and FIT. What does that really mean? So the McKinney-Vento Homeless Students Act identifies that students that are experiencing a lack of fixed, regular, or adequate housing. So for the most part, we're looking at is students that are doubled up in their housing due to an economic hardship, needing to live in a motel or a hotel because there's no other source of housing, or living in a shelter program. We also do have students at times that experience a lack of shelter altogether. So kind of what are our district procedures? So first, it's that identification, and we continue to grow our capacity to appropriately identify students that are experiencing unstable housing. Every single staff in our school district has access to annual training, and then those that work more specifically with student populations receive additional training, specifically secretaries and registrars as they're doing the enrollment process, so that we can identify that need right away. After that need is identified, I work closely with this, like I said, the social workers, the counselors, and the other community liaisons to make sure that we are looking at each family's situation and identifying what are the barriers and the supports that they may need. In that process, we're also gathering information from families about what is in the best interest of their student so that we can make sure that we're teaming together to get students enrolled in school quickly and effectively. A lot of that work comes at start at the Welcome Center as families are coming in and they're able to first identify that housing is a barrier. And then that continued support. So some of that looks like identifying transportation needs to school, supporting the special education department to meet the unique needs of students, and then also partnering with other community programs to make sure that students have the things that they need. I was gonna say just this week, last week, I was able to meet with the Nebraska Balance of State Continuum of Care, which supports the coordination of services for those people that are facing homelessness or near homelessness. And the balance of state, so basically all of the non-metro areas, is gonna have the opportunity to partner with an outside agency to bring some unique new ways to serve families on the preventative side, which is hopefully a great opportunity for all of the state, but also Nebraska, or the Grand Island area. And then also that ongoing continued support through our local continuum of care, which is how local agencies get together and provide updated information, but then also staff family situations to see if we can come up with creative solutions to meet their needs. Why do we care so much about this? Housing insecurity is the start of a trajectory for students. So if we can pour in our resources to help them be successful, then we are hopefully curbing some of the concerns that could arise in their future. We know that when there are unstructured moves, that increases the potential arrest rate for students because that instability creates a level of chaos in their lives. We know that frequent moves decrease the likelihood that students will graduate high school, and if we can have any impact on that, that's what we're here for. We also know just even the threat of an eviction for a family creates a level of instability and lowers student attendance. We know that school moves, particularly unstructured and unstable school moves, increase the likelihood of depression in adulthood. And with our families that are doubled up, we want to make sure that we're providing them as much support as possible because the potential for overcrowding in housing has daily health impacts for our students. So through our program, we want to continue to support students' dreams. The foundation already talked about opportunities for scholarships and identifying what supports are specific to students that experience housing insecurity or are unaccompanied. Also, just access to activities. I know we already recognized Mr. Whitecalf, but if it wasn't for Mr. Whitecalf being able to work an alternate schedule, he provides access to high school students to be able to stay late and still be able to get home. And those are important things for us because we want students that are experiencing housing instability to be like their peers and have that high school experience because it provides such a level of growth beyond just that coming to school and getting those grades. We want to continue to talk about these situations because we want to create spaces where students feel safe telling us. Like I said, we identify so many students, but we know that that number is still lacking, that there are students that are experiencing levels of homelessness that don't come and talk to us about their situations. And with that education and training so that we continue to increase our identification of students to provide the appropriate supports. And then those community partnerships, working with local agencies and businesses to identify needs and then do donation drives or purchase of items for our programs and our students. I think a couple of great examples is a regular occurrence is Ken's Appliances has a bed program specifically for us. So we're able to get beds for students as they transition into other housing or into doubled up situations, but have appropriate beds to sleep on. And hopefully that kind of contributes to a successful student. And I think all of these things, the program goals, I wanted to highlight a couple of big things for us as a program this year. Each year we have tons of high school students that graduate high school, and each year we have tons of FIT students that graduate. But two student situations really stood out to me this year. So we have a student who, as a young senior, took on the task of both raising a sibling in the absence of parents, finishing high school, and working full time. And I just think that speaks wonders to the support that our staff have given our students because they were able to identify what those needs were and get her on a trajectory to make that possible. And I also think of another student that is kind of that traditional beat the odds situation. So a student that despite having very limited support from adults and having couch surfed about the last 3 years of their high school career, also graduated high school and was a student that not many thought would ever make it. So these are the reasons why these programs are super important, and we continue to grow and learn and hopefully do more next year and the year after that. So, what questions do you have for me?
Ms. Albers?
Have you seen any cuts to your funding over the past year or two, 18 months or something?
So we have been able to remain stable. Dr. Stevens is probably a better question. I am a very lucky person where I don't have to handle my own funding like some other district homeless liaisons do.
So just a couple notes. So one of the things that we were fortunate during ESSER times, during the COVID funding, we had 2 grants. We had a first round grant that was that was to serve homeless students, and then a second round grant. And because we had that on top of the regular McKinney-Vento funding, and there's very specific ways you can spend any of these funds, we were able to keep some of that money through Virgil letting us have, because we spent a lot of time putting together a very specific program that no one else can ever use because it's very specific, to have gift cards that we do use with our families specific to gas funds. We have some teens that are unaccompanied that do have to drive to and from school or to work and things like that, but we need to be able to support them. We use it to buy school clothes, other home goods, things of that nature. So it's very prescriptive. It's a checkout process to other adults in our system. It's very well kept away from anywhere, but we do have some of those funds left, so that's good. Because the state did experience a cut, we originally applied for much more money because we thought we were going to actually be able to really apply for what we wanted. It is a competitive grant technically, but we actually did receive about $20,000 cut, and it is going to remain stable now. So really, when anything remains the same over the course of 3 years, it's really a cut. So we had $89,000 in our McKinney-Vento funding last year, and it's 61 this year. So the other thing is we're fortunate through our title funding. That is what actually pays for Christine, and as we know, the title funding also was reduced. So we're just trying to be mindful. So we use the McKinney-Vento funding to support Brian's role and the summer work, which we work really hard to maintain because we bring on some additional people over the summer so we can get kids to summer camps and get people out and about to make sure all the kids in the summer are well taken care of. And with Christine's job, when we brought her on, she can work some in the summer, but then we're able to keep her on too. So there was a bit of a cut, but we're just being very cautious and spending out our other funds. Plus the foundation is great, and then we have some funds that sit over there from donations and other if there's ever been a fundraiser or anything like that.
Mr. Garcia Mendez.
First off, thank you for the work that you both do, but also the liaisons and all of the work that they do. I'm curious to, I don't know if there's any like data figures of what the FIT program looks like over the past like 3-4 years. I'm assuming, I don't know if that looks pretty stagnant, like same overall years, or if there's been an increase this year.
Number of identified students.
Yeah, and kind of like split up into some of those like that you had listed out, like don't live with a legal guardian or doubled up and stuff like that. I just wonder if there's any data around some of those.
So, well, I can say because this is like an updated presentation, though last year I gave it a little bit earlier in the school year, approximately 20 more students than last year were identified. Off the top of my head, I could not tell you the previous school year. I think the biggest jump that I saw was in the number of unidentified youth or unaccompanied youth. So those students not living with a legal guardian, that number did pretty significantly increase this school year. And again, I do think some of it is just due to better identification. I do think there is a level that is due to students that are remaining in the United States while their parents are deported to other countries. So we have a little bit of both of those situations going on. But overall, our number of identified students has just seen kind of a slow, steady growth.
Ms. Albers?
So when you say unaccompanied, so where are they staying? Like, what does that look like?
What does that look like? Yeah, so unaccompanied youth is a term that we use to identify anybody that's not living with a legal guardian. So, and that's pre-K through 12. So that does not mean that students aren't living with a loving and caring adult. Many of them have a power of attorney, and we collect that information, and those typically expire every 6 months, and we get those updated. However, we still identify them as unaccompanied because that is not a legally binding document, such as like guardianship would be. And then some of our unaccompanied youth are teens, and they do live independently or somewhat independently from any sort of guardian. So whether they are on their own, living from house to house, or maybe they're living with a friend or family member while their parent is unable to meet their needs, or like I said before, potentially no longer in the country. Does that answer your question?
Mr. Garcia Mendez?
I guess if you could wave your magic wand, what is it that you would like for this program? Or like, what's your vision, and like, yeah, what are some of those, like, this would be super helpful for our work?
So I guess if I wave my magic wand, actually, it probably starts with some of the work that we do within the school. So this year, I actually spoke to several of our high school students. It's kind of a different process to kind of get some information back. And a lot of them understood that they were, if they came here from another country, they understood that legally they were unaccompanied, like when they came through like borders and customs, but they didn't understand that that could potentially impact their supports at school. So actually, if I had a magic wand, it kind of just reflects back on me that I would like to continue to grow my capacity and the staff that work with students, their capacity, to make sure that all students understand that the supports are out there if they need them. And kind of targeting our high school students as they are a little bit more independent. If I had a magic wand outside of that, continuing to our community to continue to grow its capacity to support families that are chronically homeless. And so whether that's through increasing the number of landlords that are willing to accept housing vouchers and work within those systems, continuing to support the mission of Hope Harbor so that it grows and serves families. But that would probably be my second magic wand if I had one. Any other questions?
Ms. Albers?
Have you talked to Mitch about helping get the word out about FIT? Because he's really good with social media, if you haven't heard. I just nominated him.
I will say the one thing I think we do great is in the enrollment process, families are able to self-identify their housing situation. And so being able to have those connections with families right away and do that screening process with them and talk through, I think we do a great job of, even though there's an under-identification, knowing the families that do present that information forward, very quickly being able to like qualify them, meet those needs if there are needs, and things like that. So, and some of that is due to the work that we do to make sure that we're communicating clearly with families about what supports we offer.
Shame and embarrassment with it, and that's why it's underreported?
I think sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge too. like I said, students that cross the border, knowing that they're unaccompanied, and then we have that same word here, and it really means the same thing, and them not knowing like that information transfers over and means something else to them. And I do think that there are families that do not self-identify, especially if they're doubled up, due to concerns that might impact the original renter or the original homeowner's housing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Ostermeyer. We appreciate your presentation. Up next is item number 6.3, the American Civics Bi-Yearly Report. Mrs. Kara Kuhl and Mrs. Megan Ahrens.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. I think you all know me by now because I'm here a lot for this, but I am Kara Kuhl, and I am joined this evening by Megan Ahrens, and we serve as the ELA and Social Studies curriculum coordinators for the district. While I support secondary curriculum, Megan is my counterpart who supports elementary. And when I was here last time, we really took a deeper dive into the secondary social studies world, and I'm really excited because tonight Megan is going to take us on a little journey to look more at how our elementary curriculum supports civic education. So, just to remind everyone, the purpose of this presentation is to provide you with information about our district's social studies curriculum and how it meets the requirements of the American Civics Education as outlined in Public Law 79724 and Board Policy 2230. And before we talk more about elementary, I want to just first remind everyone just a brief overview of that focus of Public Law 79724. And really at the core of this law, it's about fostering civic competence by ensuring students gain an understanding of American history, government, and the responsibilities of citizenship. And it really highlights the importance of foundational principles like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It encourages civic engagement and promotes the inclusion of multicultural contributions and perspectives in American history. So to meet these requirements, our district has adopted Nebraska state standards for social studies, and our K-12 social studies curriculum is fully aligned with the 2019 Nebraska social studies standards. We use these standards to really guide our instruction to ensure that students develop the knowledge and skills that are necessary to understand American history and government and their civic responsibilities. In addition to standards alignment, Public Law 79724 has some specific expectations for the social studies curriculum, such as recognizing men and women who played crucial roles in achieving our independence, examining the establishment of our constitutional government, and incorporating multicultural contributions. And really, just beyond meeting these requirements, really it's the idea that social studies should be more than just that memorizing timelines or reciting facts. We really want to foster critical thinking skills that students need to be informed and engaged citizens. As we think tonight about our elementary curriculum specifically, there are some specifics in the law just around grades below grade 6 that we want to think about. In grades below 6th grade, we should be devoting at least 1 hour per week to some of these key purposes, including stressing the contributions of all ethnic groups to America's development, discussing noteworthy events and exceptional acts in American history, learning patriotic songs, and developing respect for the American flag. As we've talked about before, our district is committed to providing high-quality instruction, and to support those learning expectations outlined in our state standards, we've adopted rigorous standards-aligned instructional resources. So since our focus this evening is on the elementary level, I'm going to hand it over to Megan now so she can share more about our K-5 curriculum resources and really how we address those requirements of the American civics at the elementary level.
Thank you, Kara. The vast majority of our K-3 social studies standards are integrated into CKLA, which is our core reading resource. In 4th and 5th grades, we have additional resources that are used to meet these requirements, with 4th grade focusing on the Nebraska history through a resource called the Nebraska Adventure Curriculum, and 5th grade utilizes Social Studies Alive with a focus on America's past. By leveraging these resources, we ensure that students are gaining the knowledge and skills needed to meet academic standards and to succeed as informed citizens. So taking a look at some of our summer work, we had 30 teacher leaders that met last summer to take a deep dive into our social studies curriculum and the alignment with the state standards. These teachers are from all across the district. Every elementary is represented, and we have a multitude between K-5. As part of this work, they identified essential standards for each grade. And the task force members had several key reflections from this work, including that civics education starts very young and includes kindergarten standards. Also, civics education is the responsibility of all teachers and school leaders, not just classroom teachers. Standards not met through CKLA directly with the reading resources, they created additional guidance with the task force to meet all standards, including some resources that are developed by our task force. Some of these standards are also met through partnerships with Junior Achievement, and many of those are focusing on financial literacy, and they could include field trips at certain grade levels or additional student research projects. Let's take a closer look at some of the civic standards we are teaching, starting with kindergarten. Here are a few examples of what civic standards look like connected to our early kindergarten learning. If you are visiting classrooms in our district, you might often hear teachers discussing how to be a good friend, how to be a good neighbor and classmate, and how to follow set rules so that all can learn and be productive. Our common expectations that go even beyond kindergarten are being safe, respectful, and responsible, and you would hear all teachers throughout the school using that terminology. Students also begin to learn the early foundations of our culture and celebrations. This includes key holidays, songs, and how to respect our flag, and some of those were mentioned earlier as the requirements of the bill, as Kara stated. Here are two overarching civic standards in 5th grade, so looking at the other end of the elementary bookends of the elementary world. There are many substandards that fall under these main standards. These are met through a variety of learning connections throughout the year, but towards the very end of 5th grade, students have a specific social studies unit directly tied to civics and economics. They will answer the following questions. What are the key features of the U.S. Constitution? What are the basic rights and freedoms of the American people? What does it mean to be a citizen of the United States? And how did the Founding Fathers create the economy that we use today? This is a great jumping off point for students as they continue their learning and transition into middle school.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Megan. So just to conclude, in accordance with state law, we have all of our information posted and accessible to the public on the GIPS website, and you can find that under the curriculum and instruction section. And then we really appreciate your time this evening, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have one question, Dr. Mann.
I noticed that you had the Constitution, you had the Bill of Rights as a couple of times. How about the Declaration? Where do we address that, or is that included
It is absolutely included within the bill. I don't know if you can speak to in elementary, if
Yes,
that is.
that was just a brief list. Fifth grade covers a lot, and it's just kind of fifth grade at the very end of the fifth grade year. So they are just, some of the teachers are just finishing up this unit, or will complete it by the end of the year. And there is a broad list, and so that was just a few of the questions that fifth grade will answer. But they learn about it starting at the very end of fifth grade.
Good question.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6.4, extra standard, Dr. Carrie Kohler.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to talk about the Extra Standard Committee. We met on April 13th, and you can see the listing of the people that attended. And the positions are all come from the negotiated agreement. All of the positions are laid out in there, and then we invite those people to attend. So we have administrators, board members, coaches, sponsors, GIA representation, athletic directors, just a variety of people involved in that committee. So we met on the 13th, and probably the biggest difference, I would say, in the past years, it's been more about increase in students. This year, it's been more about the increase. We focused in on the increase in responsibilities and the time commitment for some of those positions and getting them to the correct categories. So for each of those that say increase, the head cheerleading coach, the track assistant coach, the head unified track coach, the freshman football assistant coach, the head speech sponsor, the senior class sponsor, those are all the assignments that had an increase because of the responsibility and the time commitment for those assignments. So that was requested. And then we have an add fall category for the head dance coach, and that's just to make that a similar pay as the cheer position. So the cheer assignment and the dance assignment are very close, and they wanted them to be paid in the same manner, so we added that category. And then the last piece, the middle school athletic directors. Previously, they've received that $8,792, that's the amount for this year. They've received that on every year when they've been the middle school AD, and they asked for steps that are very similar to the other positions on the extra standard schedule. So every year they have a increase of the 0.5% steps that will go from 18.5% to 21.5%. And previously it was just the 18% of the base. So the more experience they have in that position, then they will move across just the same as the coaches do or the sponsors. So for the increase, looking at the step this year to the step that it will be for next year, that increase is the $10,143. The total cost of movement is $60,670, and then the total altogether is $70,813. Questions for me? This is just information today, and I'll come back next month for action.
Seeing none, thank you, Dr. Kohler. Okay, item number 6.5, the copy and print administrative support services agreement with Optimizon. Mr. Virgil Harden.
Well, good evening, everyone. How are you doing? Hopefully wonderful. I'm here to spice up your evening, so here we go. Because everybody loves copier management agreements. So we talked about it at Facility and Finance, information this month, action hopefully next month. So as you may know, Optimizon is the company that we worked with to do the request for proposals for our new copier contract. So they helped us build the request for proposal. They helped us reach out to vendors. They helped us evaluate the proposal, and then helped us get to the point where we had the recommendation, which we've already approved. So this is post RFP acceptance. We're working with EECS for the next 5 years, starting basically, we'll just say September 1. They're going to do equipment switch out and everything in the summer, but for all intents purposes, this is really for September 1 for the next 60 months. So the proposed contract would cost the district $2,200 a month, or $26,400 annually for each of the 5 years of the contract. The issue that we're experiencing is that while we certainly have people on staff that could devote time, effort, and energy to organize and track all the copiers that we have, and when I say all the copiers we have, it's quite a few. It's $600,000 worth of equipment that we'll be buying yet this year to put in place for the next 5 years. And so that is just the equipment, and then the other service contract is millions of dollars over that 5 years. So this contract would allow Optimizon to actually give us their expertise, their data analysis tools, and help us track the actual utilization. So for example, if we maybe had something like this in place with our previous contractor, we kind of had a normal color copier range of between 6 and 10%. Unfortunately, with the agreement that's ending, we're at 24% of all our copies are color. And so that actually is one of the savings that we're looking at. In fact, if you look at the attachment, the rationale, the color copier being reduced just to that 10%, that high part of the normal range for school districts, would save the district $56,016 annually, or $280,000. I don't think it's one of these really hard things to say, like I'm lost, I need help finding my way. We don't ever say that, right? So this is like GIPS is lost and we need help finding our way. Hard thing to say, but it's not that we can't do it, it's just that we don't do it because we have so many other duties and responsibilities that comes low on the totem pole compared to the chaos of the daily operations and getting all the work done. So we need some help from the outside to monitor and do the data analysis and bring us data-driven decision-making on our copiers. And so I think we can achieve that savings. I think we can probably even get it below 10%, so that savings could be even more with the help from the firm Optimizon. Quite honestly, if you don't know, they are new to Nebraska. They're new to us. Nobody else is using them because we're the first in the state to do it. So I would predict that as you maybe talk with your peers across the state over time, you'll start hearing them talk about this firm Optimizon and the benefits that they will bring to their district. So I think we're setting a standard here. And so the things that we're doing to save money up front is we're paying cash for the equipment instead of financing it, so that's about a $78,000 savings on interest expense. We're targeting that color copier reduced in spending, and we're doing data-driven independent analysis of the actual production of the fleet. And the thing that we're hopeful, and I say it that way because I cannot, there's very few guarantees in life. The idea is that if these machines are properly maintained and we work with them closely to manage and make sure we know what's going on with them, we can do an extra year on the equipment in the buildings itself, so we can get a 6th year. So therefore, obviously that equipment cost is spread over 6 years and not just 5. We idealize going 7, but I highly doubt that we can do that because we use the copiers pretty heavy. Now, when I talk about going a 6th year, it's about the building copiers. It's not about the print shop in this building. Not to complain too much about what's going on, but just to full disclosure, the example of the issues we face, again, this is the current vendor, not the one we're going to, but last year in August, our heaviest use month, every single machine was down in the print shop, and we had to use all the little copiers around this building, and people were scattered, and we were cranking out tens of thousands of copies on those little machines just to get by until they got the machine. Guess what happened last week? All 3 machines were down, and the people were doing kind of thing. So if we don't manage this, we're just going to get the same kind of thing with our new vendor. It's not a vendor is bad kind of situation. It's if we don't manage the fleet it's just not gonna happen. It has to be managed. We can avoid having another full FTE by just contracting with this and achieve these savings. So grand scheme of things, from my seat on the bus, recommended to you as a board to enter into this agreement, and then hopefully achieve the savings. One of the things the F&F committee had asked, initially it was just a flat 5 years contract. They came back and said, hey, we can do 2 years with an option to extend 3 years. So if we go 2 years into it and we just don't see the savings on the copiers, on the color prints, we don't see the value in the data-driven decision-making and holding the vendor accountable, after the 2 years, we can walk away. So that's an accommodation they made. So hopefully in that summary, you can see really the conclusion says it all. This helps Grand Island move from a troubleshooting, reactive stance to a proactive management of this fleet and the cost associated with it. So with that, I'll conclude my comments and be happy to entertain any comments you might have, or questions, of course.
Ms. Douglas.
I just wanted to say that, like, you explained this to us in our meeting, and one of the things that you had talked about was that Optimizon put in the contract that they had to have spare parts in-house.
Correct.
To save the time, and I just think that's a huge deal.
Well, it is, and I was surprised when I actually read the agreement. You know, I'm like, okay, it's time to read the 80-page agreement. And it's like, GIPS shall provide a cabinet, a storage area, but EECS will provide all the parts that are normally required for routine maintenance and things that are normally breaking in that on-site. And so then I even drilled down and said, well, who gets to use those parts? Who are we going to have an inventory of those parts? Are we going to know who uses them when they do it? Can the, EECS come and use them for Spudley down the street, or are they ours? And it's like, no, they're GIPS's parts until such time as the contract's over. So it is a big deal to have those parts, because that's exactly what's going on right now. The copiers are down because the part's not in, and then, of course, then the part comes in, and guess who's not available to put the part in? The service technician. So that is definitely a value-added activity, and they put that in there. I didn't come up with that idea. I wished I had.
Ms. Albers.
Well, and I thought at FNF that they must have some real confidence in this contract and in the service that they provide because of the same things that they added to the contract, like that. Like, they will provide the parts, even parts they usually have to order. They'll do the 2-year and with the option of increasing it. But they also manage the maintenance scheduling, right?
Yes,
And
they
so-
hold what happens is, without this kind of third-party review, in the end, the vendor controls the contract because they're providing the maintenance based on, so if things are going good and, you know, they can extend it a little bit, they do. Well, that's probably okay in the first 3 years, but then you get to the second, third, or, you know, the fourth and fifth year, kind of the end of the contract, and you end up with equipment failure because they've not replaced these. So all the parts in the copier end up suffering because they didn't really take care of it. This contract will hold them, and this work with Optimizon will hold them accountable for replacing those based on the manufacturer's recommended parts replacement schedule.
And the maintenance is key to get the 6th year out of the machines.
Absolutely.
So
And
it all kind of works
just
together.
just on that 6 year, if I didn't say it earlier, it is only the buildings. The print shop, I'll be surprised if we get 4 years out of them and don't have to come back and buy it, because we really crank on them pretty hard. Millions of copies a year. So, good questions.
Burge, can you give us an example of how they can hold the vendor accountable? I mean, what teeth do they have?
What teeth they have is the fact that the device is actually connected to their software, and they're monitoring the software, and then they actually pull it out and do the analysis of the copies, and then they compare it to the actual schedule that the contractor enters into their maintenance schedule. So it's all connected, and they can hold them. So if a part needs to be replaced at 50,000 images, and it's not logged that that's been replaced, then they'll be able to reach out to the provider, and we can have that conversation, hold them accountable. In the past, if that happened, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't be able to hold the vendor account. They'd just do it, and then, year 4 and 5, we'd start having these problems. So they're able to hold them accountable because they have the data from the machines itself and from the vendor providing the service.
Okay. How about, since no one else is, I think, hit their button, another question. You mentioned going from 6% to 24% in color copies. I mean, in my office, we have our office manager that has threatened us all if we use too many color copies. So we don't.
Right. And so your business is different than our business.
Yes, how does that work?
And that your business is mostly adults, I think. You don't have too many kids in your business working, do you? And so
Well, it depends on the day.
Yeah, it depends on the day. We got 10,000 of them. And so our primary mission, of course, is to educate those kiddos. And so the principal might be likened to your manager, but they're taking care of kids and families and the situations. They aren't managing that. And so that's where the example of where we need help. It just operates differently than a business. It operates as a social service organization that just doesn't have that connection. So we bring in this outside expertise with the tools to do it electronically and remotely. We gain the benefit of that manager for, hopefully a net savings to the district versus a cost. Did I answer your question? I hope I understood it, first of all.
Yes, but it brings a second part is, okay, so if they identify that more color copies are being used, then what steps are then taken to reduce that amount?
So we'll obviously ask them that question, but my first takeaway is that we have another software that we use that we've already been using that we haven't really got the full value out because it wasn't configured correctly, and that's called PaperCut. And that's the software that then accounts for, okay, I'm a user, I walk up, I scan my badge, I'm identified, I do my copies, and then they know how much is being done by me as a user. And so we'll have that data extraction being actually analyzed by them on a routine monthly basis. So if we see, I call them bad actors, abusing their allotment or going over and above, then we start having those one-on-one conversations, the manager to the teacher saying, what are you doing, what's going on? The other thing that we're doing specifically in targeting it is we were a little bit generous with where we put color copies with the current agreement that's ending. We are not going to be quite so generous in that there's going to be a color copier available in the workroom, so you actually have to go there to get the color copies and see and be seen, so maybe you won't a little bit of the manager in the hall kind of thing. If you're seen picking up your color copiers every third hour or whatever it is, maybe you'll be less inclined to do it.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Ms. Goodman.
So mine's question is kind of along that line, but I'm looking on here and it says color copy reduction. By shifting by high contrast color impressions to black and white, you would save so much.
Correct.
But then down below, it says you would want to cut back to 10%? So would teachers be limited on how many color copies they could get?
yes, they're going to be limited.
Right.
They're not going to be happy.
No, yeah, I get that. I do a lot of printed color copies for my preschoolers. But you're saying you want to get it down to 10% or get it lowered by 10%?
Great question. The data analysis and the savings that's on the sheet is based on getting it to the 10%, which is the high end of the educational standard. 6 to 10 is kind of the range of most school districts with a contract like this. I'm suggesting that at minimum we can hit the 10. With the work and help of Optimizon, I think we can get it down maybe 1% or 2% more.
Okay.
With all the things we're doing.
Right.
That's a whole,
I do like where you said where it's in a more public place. Like, because I am self-conscious of what I print off because I want everything to look pretty, but I don't always need it to look pretty.
And
so when I'm printing off for little kids.
Yeah, I'm learning that skill too.
Yeah.
It's human nature, right? I mean, it's like, sure, I sure would like that because it's pretty red colored at the top on my screen, but I don't need that.
Right.
Force myself to do black and white. Setting the settings on the printer to default to black and white and having to have your end user change it to color and then have them say, are you sure? Yes.
Right.
And then this will cost you $1.78.
Yeah.
So again, because our paper cut software wasn't totally configured as best that it can be, we lost out on some of that kind of thing. And so there's a couple things, you know, so we learn, we adapt, we get better at it, but we need more help if we're going to get as much out of it as we can.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you.
You bet. Great questions.
Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Harden.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much. Okay, item number 6.6, recommendation to award prime vendor contract. Mr. Harden, again.
Mr. Garcia could not be here tonight, so I am helping him out by taking this one. So it's pretty easy because we've been doing it for a long time. So every 5 years, the Nutrition Services Program is required to go out to bid for their food contract. It's called Prime Vendor. And you can see the summary from Oscar there on the attachment. And the interesting thing is, if you look at the kind of the ranking, Cashway got 100 points, and really it was in the 3 categories of what they call market basket pricing, cost plus markup, and delivery capability kind of thing. And so this is set pricing for this year, but it sets the tone of the items that we're going to buy for the next 5 years. So we'll go out for a rebid every year for the next 5 years. This is kind of like a set. Every 5 years, you have to go through the full RFP process. The next 4 years, you get to do tell us what the price is this year for these things that we did. And then you start a new 5-year cycle. So that's why they call it prime vendor. And it's the food that we buy. You can see the total estimated cost for the food in the listing with Cashway, and that's on a, of course, annual basis. This is for next school year. So if you think about how much we're spending for food in the next 5 years, it'd be $10 million. Easy, because you think about food price increases. If we think it's going to be about $2.4 million for next year, it obviously will be higher than the following year, and so on. So pretty routine things. He had good responses from very capable vendors, and it really does come down to just those few categories: price, delivery capabilities, and then that cost plus markup, where everything's pretty variable. It's like, we'll quote you a price, and here's the set markup, and you buy as much or as little of it. The other market basket piece, we're guaranteeing what we're buying. So that's a full RFP process, and so this is, like I said, the next 4 years, you'll see this on a consent agenda this time of year, where it's been just a renewal of the contract. It's just an updated price. So that's what I know about it.
Any questions for Mr. Harden? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you. See, wasn't that fun?
Okay. Next item, 6.7, policy. Mr. Fisher.
Well, that finance stuff is nowhere near as fun as the policy stuff, so hang on, the good stuff's really coming. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, all right, here we go. Okay, first policy that we're looking at here is 4311, which deals with the federal legislation, the Every Student Succeeds Act. And basically this was put in place in 2018, hasn't been reviewed since then. Act really hasn't changed either. So as we look through this, the only thing that we've really changed is we've got rid of a "the" here and there with the Grand Island Public Schools. And then in section 5 there were some specifics listed that we really didn't feel like needed to be there. So we are proposing that we eliminate those specifics. Otherwise, as long as the act remains at the federal level, the policy probably is in line with that. Questions on that one? All right, 4710, dealing with electronic messaging. This was a policy that had not been revised, I believe, since 2014. So it's been quite a few years, and some of the guidelines have changed since that time. And so Corey Gearhart reviewed it and compared it to what our current practices are. He felt like it was going to be simpler to just revise the entire policy as opposed to crossing out and adding to the existing policy. So everything that we're proposing here is the verbiage that's in red. That would be what would become the new electronic messaging retention policy. Not a ton of, changes other than just really aligning it to what our current practices are. Any questions around that one? All right. Then we would go to reading instruction and improvement. Megan and Kara, who presented earlier, also had the opportunity to take a look through this one. And again, not a lot of changes necessarily, but a few wording changes here and there to better align with the way we currently talk about some of those reading and instruction practices. So don't see a lot of really change in the intent with this at all. It's really just more a matter of eliminating some language that was a little bit redundant, and then again, changing some of the verbiage in different places. Talking about interventions rather than intervention programs, for instance, was one of the things that was proposed in this change. Questions around that one? Okay. All right, then we're going to talk about school community volunteer relations. And again, a little bit of change here in terms of the one statement. Oops, got a little too big there. In terms of the one statement that's here, and really the change is simply eliminating some specific examples that were listed there. Again, kind of going back to what we've done with a number of policies, going to that idea that when you put examples, you're creating expectations. And a lot of times with policy, it's better to just state what the policy's intent is rather than providing examples. And then if we feel like it's something specific to employees or students or whoever, then within our handbooks for those different groups, we'll include some of those specifics. Questions around that? All right. Non-resident students. Again, there was some language kind of specific to certain things that felt like probably it would be in the best interest of the policy to eliminate some of that specific language. And really, I think when you look at that first statement and you look at the right before we crossed out that first line that's listed in red there, when it talks about the enrollment option program authorized by the state statute. Well, that's really what we're going to do. I mean, that's what the policy really needs to say, is that we're going to follow what is put in place by state statute. And so everything else that you add on to that is really just an opportunity to create a stumbling block at some point in time. And so then that second paragraph then, goes on to talk about, us reviewing on an annual basis, which we do review on an annual basis and set those option guidelines based on what we're looking at that year. So that's really all there is in that one. Later on, it does talk about non-resident students may also be admitted under a contract with the student's resident district, which we do. There are certain instances where we are able to provide services that maybe their home district cannot. We're not going to accept that student as an option student necessarily, but we're going to contract with their home district to provide some services. The statement that followed that, though, as far as the payment for those services, again, I think it's best for us to negotiate that contract and not necessarily tie ourselves into anything through our policy. And so that's really what's being done in that. Is basically eliminating those references to specific payment and knowing that that will be negotiated in a fair and equitable way. Whatever the services are going to cost us, that's the cost that we're going to pass along. But we don't always know exactly what that cost is going to be until we know exactly what the services are going to be. Questions around that one? Okay. Then student absences, 8310. This was one of those policies we've kind of been holding off on, waiting to see exactly what the legislature did this year, because they did deal with absences in some of the legislative pieces that were there. In the end, we didn't really have to change the policy a whole lot. Again, just some wording changes early on there. Then that school excused absences include but are not limited to. Again, that's listing some specifics that are creating expectations that may or may not be accurate, and and may change from time to time. And so I think having those in the handbook rather than in policy is a better place for us to operate from. Questions around that one? All right, and finally, medication in school. This is a policy actually that we reviewed a couple years ago, but because we had another policy last month that involved the review of this policy, Chris Roman, who heads up our nurses, read through this one and felt like there were maybe a few wording changes that we should make in this one. So again, as you look through it, there's really no change in any of the intent, just some wording changes that better represent where we're at and what we're doing. Things like eliminating the nasal spray for Narcan, because that may not be the only way that we administer Narcan. Questions around that?
Dr. Mann.
Well, I'm probably out of order, but I'm not quick enough on the button here yet, so excuse my
We'll get you trained.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. I did have a question on the school absences.
Okay.
And in the policy, it says that at such time as the absences are determined excessive by the school administrator. Do we get? Are we setting ourselves up for a situation where absences in one school might not be considered excessive, where absences in another school, same number of absences, might be considered extremely excessive?
That's probably a legitimate question. It wasn't something that came up when we reviewed it with the policy committee. This is our first look at it, so I think that's probably something for us to talk through. Obviously, we don't want to create that situation, and so I think if that language leads to that, I think then we probably need to take a look at that and make sure that we're not. I don't think that's happening at this juncture, but again, we want to make sure that our policy doesn't put us in a position that we could end up there. So we will take a look at that.
My apologies.
Nope, no problem. No problem. Yeah, any questions back on the health policy, medications policy? All right, if not, I think that concludes policies for right now.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Fisher. On to action items. Items number 7.1, recommendation to award prime vendor contract. Do we have any questions for Mr. Harden? Seeing none, at this time I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to award the prime vendor food contract to Cashwa Distributing CWD as recommended.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Wilson. Discussion. Any discussion on the matter? Questions? All right, we may proceed to a vote in order to accept Cashway. Motion passes.
That wasn't much of a break. All right, these are the policies that we have as action items tonight. This first one deals with media materials. This was a policy that would be an additional policy that would be required because of legislative action last spring, not this immediately past legislative session, but the 2025 legislative session put in place guidelines that we were required to adopt as far as being able to provide access for parents to materials that were going to be checked out of our media centers. So that's what this policy deals with. This was a policy that the attorney provided. Questions around it?
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 7355, media materials and parental access as presented.
Second by Ms. Wilson. Discussion. Seeing none, may proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Okay, policy 7640, standardized assessment administration. Proposing to change, starting with the title, to assessment administration and utilization, because what we're using for assessment isn't necessarily always standardized. And when Dr. Palmer and Opal Bentley reviewed this policy, again, they felt like there were enough changes. I think this policy goes back maybe to 2010, so it had been quite a few years since it had been reviewed. Felt like there were enough changes in what we were doing, enough changes in the state guidelines at this point in time that it probably made sense for us to do a total revision of the policy rather than to try and scratch and add with the existing policy. So this policy is listed in new form in the red text. Questions about this one?
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 7640, assessment administration and utilization as presented.
Second by Ms. Douglas. Discussion. Seeing none, may proceed to a vote. Motion passes.
Okay, policy 8514.5, severe asthma and anaphylaxis protocol. Again, this was coming out of the 2025 legislative session. There was a requirement that we put in place a policy around asthma and anaphylaxis protocol for the 26-27 school year. So this policy would be something that would go into effect for next year. And it basically is a policy that just summarizes the practices that we already had in place. So we really didn't have to change anything. We already had these protocols up and running, but we did not have a policy around it. So this is a policy that the attorney presented for us.
I'd entertain a motion at this time. If there's no questions.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 8514.5, severe asthma and anaphylaxis protocol as presented.
Second by Ms. Wilson. Discussion. Seeing none, you may proceed to a vote. Motion passes. Okay, on to item number 8.1, Student Representative Report. Catherine, your last one.
Oh. Good evening, everybody. I'm excited to present the last report of the GIPS school year, showcasing the spring events and highlights and accomplishments. To begin with, sports and activities. The boys basketball team finished second place in districts and will be heading to first round of the state tournament this week. Seniors Miles Nelson and Carson Washburn were acknowledged as NCPA Academic All-State throughout the NSAA. Girls tennis had a great turnover with the 9-0 win over Lincoln Northeast. Islanders competed at the District NSAA District A1 meet with outstanding performances including Aurora Carr, first place in unified long jump, Wendy Kohler, first place in unified shot put, Fernando Aguilar Prieto, third place for 100 meters unified, Celia McCoy, first place in the 100 and 300 meter hurdles, and Michael Overmiller, third place in 110 meter hurdles, and Katie Johnson, third place in 3,200 meter hurdles. Senior McKenna Masonic was named National Athlete of the Year, and Senior Aisha Garish and Noah Burr were named All-American Athletes by the NHS SCA National. The Gish Esports won the Nebraska State League of Legends Championship after taking a 2-0 win against Scotts Bluff. The robotics team 8151W competed at nationals and earned 35th place overall. Skills USA's chapter had 47 competitors with 13 teams placing at state. 5 of those teams will qualified for nationals this summer in Atlanta. Class officers hosted Class Day on Thursday last week. The day consisted of fun games and special videos and recognitions for the class of 2026. Over 600 seniors attended and got to walk the halls of Gish for one last time. Also, the class of 2027 class officers were elected by peers. These which are President Isaac Hawley, Vice President Crisia Chacon, Secretary Nancy Martinez, and Student Board Representative Angie De Horta. Shrek the Musical earned 2026 Outstanding Ensemble Award by Nebraska Theater Academy. Nebraska State poet Jewel Rogers hosted a student writer workshop and an open mic night session at Gish, sharing her experiences and writing process with students. Theater students played the roles of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, mocking a trial for Goldilocks for invasion. The trial served as a learning opportunity for third graders all over the district to understand the courthouse and experience judicial system firsthand. The events around GIPS. Gish had over 650 students graduating this weekend, all achieving a milestone that will help them reach their future goals. With a special honor to Sarah Wickman that shared her inspiring words as student speaker during the ceremony. Gish offered capstone presentations during finals week where different pathways presented their accomplishments throughout their senior year to families, students, and staff members. From small businesses, engineering prototypes, practicum teaching reflections, to real-world job shadowing, seniors were able to showcase all the great opportunities that Gish Pathways allow. GIPS Foundation hosted a scholarship reception for the class of 2026 GIPS scholarship recipients. They were able to meet their donors and share their exciting after-high school plans. 9 juniors were signed to be part of the Nebraska Register Apprenticeship Program. These students will learn work-based learning experiences with local businesses. Junior Construction Pathway students presented the keys to the new homeowners to the house they have dedicated their time building from the ground up. This community partnership gives students a learning experience while helping community members receive a brand new affordable home. Senior Exam Dodvan alongside myself were MCQs during the Global Roots Festival. During the festival, a group of Lincoln Elementary students showcased their cultural folklore dancing to community members. In addition, Gish volunteers helped set up, run, and tear down the event, ultimately contributing and embracing all the backgrounds in our community. Walnut DC diplomats completed 10 murals that are displayed at Stolly Park, Little Kingdom. This was the outcome of a community partnership between GIPS, GI Parks Department, and the AOK ladies. MTech Club hosted their family night where students had the opportunity to teach their families what they have been learning in the club. The students got the opportunity to code something for their parents and take home plants that they have been taking care of throughout the semester. Dutch Running Club had their last meeting as well, with an extra surprise. The students who participated got to walk out with a new pair of matching running shoes, encouraging the students to stay active throughout the summer. The Eagle Man student-ran Character Council hosted a Coin for Cancer fundraiser to support local families with a total of $2,821 collected and donated. Connect Room started a buddy program partnering older students with younger ones for quarterly activities throughout the year. The program aims to build students' confidence, mentorship, and safety throughout the school. Lastly, I would like to thank Ms. Riak, who has stepped up as the new advisor for the Glamour Gals chapter at GISH. Initially, Ms. Riak reached out to the club officers and offered her help for the club's events. After being moved by the mission of the club, she will take our retiring sponsor, Ms. Wagner's role as head advisor. Without these wonderful advisors, the club wouldn't be able to run smoothly and be offered to our students. Glamour Gals has made lots of impact in the lives of both the seniors in care and the wonderful volunteers. Ms. Ryak is committed to attend 3 senior home visits and monthly club meetings. This commitment requires a lot of patience and time that she has been willing to step up to. Thank you, Ms. Ryak, for supporting the mission of our passionate student leaders. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a nice summer.
Catherine would, on behalf of the board, like to thank you for all the time that you've put in to report to us, and you've done an excellent job. And thank you for reporting representing the student body. Okay. All right. On to item number 8.2, the superintendent report.
Well, I think Catherine covered it all. So, great report, and certainly thank you for all of the reports and the time. And Catherine also has got to be a part of our student superintendent group, and I think has been a great contributing member there as well. So, certainly congratulations and best of luck in your future. Catherine mentioned graduation. The one thing I guess I would add to what she shared was simply that we did do graduation at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. And as far as I can tell, it went fine. I think everything actually went really smoothly from the standpoint of doing it. I've heard from a number of people that they really liked the Saturday morning. I haven't heard from anyone yet that they were really upset that we weren't on Sunday afternoon. So hopefully we made a really good move there, because we have committed with Heartland Event Center to be there for several years. So I think it worked well, and I think it's been a good change, and hopefully something that we'll continue to feel good about in the future. Just a couple other things that Catherine had mentioned, just to add on to. She mentioned the internship, the 9 apprenticeships, the 9 apprenticeships that we did and recognized the other day, and that's always a neat event to see them get that opportunity to sign that agreement with the business that's going to do that apprenticeship with them, and those are paid apprenticeships. So in effect, they are giving them a job, or they're going to get to learn some very specific skills, and a lot of those apprentices go on to be employees of those companies. But one of the things that really stood out to me as Mr. Hawley was sharing information around apprenticeships in Nebraska, there are a number of colleges that have apprenticeships, and there are a few high schools that have apprenticeships. There are 29 current high school apprentices out across the state. 24 of them are ours. So, looking at that, that's certainly one of those things that I think we can feel really good about in terms of our programs doing, I think, what we want them to do in terms of giving students opportunities. Just a couple things in terms of the sports at the high school. Catherine shared, I think, a lot of the things. Baseball state tournament, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. If you want to tune in, I think it is streamed on the High School Federation website. State track, we had, I think, a good showing. I know that talking with Mr. Ladwig, he said that we qualified more people than they expected to qualify, which is always a good thing. I think we ended up with 9 boys and 8 girls qualifying, so kudos to them. Tennis is also at their conference meet tomorrow, and they begin their state meet then at the end of next week. And golf won the city title. That's always a good thing to beat Northwest and Central Catholic in the city competition. It's always good to have bragging rights across the city. And they are actually, they've got their conference coming up, and then their district meet is next week, and they have state the following week. And they are projected to potentially qualify as a team for the state golf tournament. So some good things going on there in terms of our spring sports. As far as our middle schools, they are, pretty well wrapped up with their sports at this point in time. They do have their state track meet that they host in Gothenburg for middle school students. And I think we qualified 2 from each of the middle schools to compete in that track meet this Saturday. They're wrapping up their concerts as well as their their spring sports. So got to take in several of those middle school concerts. I think the last one I had on my calendar was last night. We had orchestra at Westridge. Elementary, Catherine talked about several different things that we have going on, but all of the elementaries are in the middle of field days. Last week was a big field day week. Got to take in a few field days. At one time, I was set up to be in a race against Mrs. McDonald. I declined. I didn't have the right shoes. Again, they're wrapping up their concert season, and then they're in the middle of doing some field trips. I think Mitch was off to Lincoln with Wasmer today and visiting the Capitol, and I encountered the Newell Pioneers on the Oregon Trail on Tuesday, I believe it was, that they were out, pushing the shopping carts with the covered wagons. I didn't get to see them come down Tornado Hill because that's always an adventure when they have to lower the carts down Tornado Hill. But I did get to see them crossing the area around Walnut. So I don't know why you couldn't. It's a pretty exciting event. They're all dressed up. They have to. The girls were all upset because they had to wear dresses. The boys have to push the carts, though, so it's kind of an equalizing factor. So yeah, that's one of those fun things that they get to do. And they were actually at Walnut. They have a trading post there. They have to decide what they're going to buy to help them out on the Oregon Trail. So it's a neat little project. So we've got our retirement receptions wrapped up. I think we're pretty well set to be done with the school year. So I think that's about all I had to report on tonight. Any questions anyone would have about anything?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. All right, the next regular Board of Education meeting will be Thursday, June 11th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. At this time, I call the meeting adjourned, 7:13.